welcome back for another story time. Going to continue talking about, we're going to continue talking about my history with graffiti. This story is going to get right into the thick of it. Last time we ended off on like my first arrest for, I guess as an adult, my first arrest as an adult for graffiti related vandalism, I guess we'll call it. And we're going to continue right from there, and I want to get to kind of like where things ended off for me. So I think this will be the last installment of this, really. Getting, again, right into the thick of the whole stuff with graffiti, what I was doing, how I was doing it, what it meant to me. And then there is a second arrest, I'll tell you that, where things kind of taper off. So that's what we're going to get into today with this story time. After the incident at Tim Hortons, where I got busted, I was released the next day with some conditions and had to do some community service hours. I don't remember all the conditions of my probation. Curfew was a part of it, 10 p.m. curfew, which the police never check up on at all. But yeah, so that was a thing. I kind of laid low for a little bit. I was like, that obviously freaked me out, or hopefully it's obvious, like, because I'm a somewhat rational person, a little bit. So I just kind of like laid low for a bit. I don't think I ever really thought like, hey, well, that's it for me. I just kind of thought like, well, just don't be dumb next time. Like, you did a really dumb thing. You were out like at a time and a day in a location. You shouldn't have been out with all those things mixed together. Just a dumb move. Don't do that again. It was kind of like that simple. It was probably a couple weeks at least that I didn't do anything vandalism related. And then there was also like the person that kind of like got me into doing got me into graffiti as a whole thing, and then we'd go out tagging stuff together or whatever. Like, that was kind of a weird friendship sometimes too, where like there was a lot of drama going around in that whole circle of friends with him and other people and stuff like that. And then there was like the separate part of that, which was graffiti related stuff, where he had like separate acquaintances and friends and people that were in his crew and whatever. Anyway, I remember that when I decided I wanted to come back, I was like, I'm going to make my own crew. And even though I didn't know anybody, I just liked having a crew name as an umbrella for myself, because it's like having a team name that represents something other than just like at the time, like, my name was Sneak, and that was just representing me, and that's it, and it's just a name. But if I went under the umbrella of like a crew, maybe that crew name could be, or like a team name, if you want to think about it that way, would be actually saying something like it's an acronym for like a bigger thing. It's just more words to communicate another message. And I was just stupid and cringy and 18, so I decided I was going to come back with this name, Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X. And I was going to have this FTA crew, which is from the ashes, and it was just for me. Again, it was just like no one else was a part of that. So I started coming back with that, and then I remember that I started getting lined and stuff, and I was like, man, I'm so sick of this, like, because I was getting up a little more, but not a lot, and I was just like, I'm just getting lined. And people are just like wrecking my stuff and whatever, and I was like, screw it. Like, at some point, I don't remember how long this was. I don't think it was even a year. I really don't think. No, it couldn't have been. It was like a couple months or something. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like screw that. The thing that was dumb, and so I was gonna have this name called Avrx, which was AVRX, and I kind of liked it. Like, I was kind of just developing a style and stuff too, because my stuff was still pretty toy. It was really not good. And I was developing the style, and so it just wasn't good. And I was like, hey, I can do better. So I came up with this other name, Avrx, and I was like, still, writing with this guy B every once in a while, writing with some other people. I know I had this other name after that, which was Immune, except just with one M. And then I mentioned Big D earlier on. And like, so someone that I kind of like met in Outlook like once or twice through like the girlfriend I was dating, and then I like met him at Saskatoon. I was like, yo, like it's been like a couple years and since I've seen this guy, I didn't know he was there, and just like, so then we kind of started writing, and there was like this SOS crew that we started, and so there was like a couple of us writing under that, nothing big. But I'm getting more experience. I'm trying new stuff. I'm getting more styles and just like getting out there more and seeing what stuff is all about. And then I had some close calls in there too. And I don't remember all of them, but I mean there was times where, like, I'm thinking right now on Taylor and Acadia, if you're in Saskatoon and you know that intersection. I remember it was pretty late. And it was winter. I remember that too. I don't remember what name I was writing with at the time, but I do remember that I was tagging. I think there was like a stand-up mailbox in the corner, that or a power box, and there was like cop cars coming down Taylor. And I was like, no crap, and I like had to like run into like somebody's like yard and like hop a fence, which like I mean I was a bigger guy then too, not as big as I am now, but it wasn't easy, and I wasn't used to just going around, hopping fences and whatever. So, and again, it was winter, there was snow, and I just like ran through this, like, I knew the neighborhood really well. That's the one thing. Like, if you're doing a lot of tagging and you're getting up a lot, you're walking almost everywhere for the most part. And so, like, I really knew the neighborhood well, and I like just bolted and ran, and ended up hiding out at a friend's house. And yeah, so there's situations like that. There was one time where I kind of went from, I didn't even have a car at this point anyway, but I would have been walking because that just makes the most sense. But it was kind of like from Sutherland. I was walking to Cumberland and Wilson, and I don't know how long that is, but I used to walk everywhere, so nothing really seemed like a long walk at that point. But I was walking home and it was pretty late. I think it was summer, I'm pretty sure. And I was tagging stuff on the way home, and I remember I got to, I don't remember the name. It was off of Taylor. It's before Circle Drive, or it's west of Circle Drive, I guess. But by there's like the Nutana Curling Club, and then there's like Holy Cross School, and there's a park, and there's a street that goes there, and then there's another park before you get to like Market Mall. So I was kind of in that area. I would just kind of cross that road that goes in between Holy Cross and that other park. Like by Lions, where there was like an indoor skate park kind of deal there for a bit, Lions Arena. Anyway, so I was like crossing through there, and I remember this cop car just like slowly like pulled up, and I was like, oh crap. And then I just like, because I had left this woman's house, this young woman's house at the time, and I was like walking home, and I was like, for some reason in my head I was like, I'm just gonna play like really sad and just pretend to be real sad. So then there's these two cops. They didn't like jump out or anything, and I didn't know when like I said, I was tagging stuff, but I don't really remember exactly the last thing I did. I wasn't like running. I don't know. Anyway, I wasn't too scared, but like I had stuff in my bag, and I had a backpack, and that's always real heat, like, because people know you can carry stuff in there. And so like usually I would try just to go with like one can of spray paint and then some markers, and depending on the season and stuff too, I could have stuff in a jacket and pockets or whatever. But I had my bag that night because I was like out at this person's house, and it wasn't just like a tagging adventure that I was on. Anyway, so these cops rolled up, and I was just like pretending to be real sad and be like, oh yeah, they're like, oh, what's going on? And I was just like, I'm just walking home, like, where'd you come from? And I was like, I just left like my girlfriend's house, and like broke up with me and stuff. And again, that was not what happened at all, but I just felt like to distract them. I don't know, it just like caught me off guard, and I wasn't like running away actively or anything at that point. But like I was like, I just don't want them to, I don't know, I didn't want them to get suspicious and stuff, and I just wanted to throw them off. They're like, oh, sorry to hear that. And like, can we give you a ride? And I was like, no, like, I'm okay. Like, are you sure? Like, because they asked where I was going too, and I was just like going over to like Cumberland or whatever. Like, oh, that's like still a little ways, like. I was like, no, I really want to walk. Like, I really want to walk. And they're like, okay, well, have a safe night or whatever. But I don't know, things like that always sketch me. I'm like, why did you pull me over in the first place? Like, I'm just walking. Like, I don't think they got any reports, because if they got any reports of any vandalism going on, they probably would have been like, yo, like, we've gotten some reports of stuff. We want to check your bag. So, yeah, anyway, that was another time that I was like confronted with cops, and it's just like, oh, you just get like so nervous. I think there's only one other time that I got confronted without getting arrested that I can think of right now, graffiti or vandalism related, and that was in winter. And I remember I had my winter jacket, and I had I had spray paint like in my chest pocket, inside pocket, and I had like markers in my sleeve because I was just using them. And I was over by, what's the name of the school? It's on Acadia, Evan Hardy. So I was by Evan Hardy, and I was actually kind of close to home at that point. But I was walking, maybe I wasn't living there at that point. It doesn't matter. I was walking anyway around that area, and this cop, like, came and like they were talking to me. They came out of the vehicle and everything, and I actually had a backpack as well. And I remember I didn't even drink at that point yet. And I left Big D's place, and I had beer, and it was because like he couldn't have beer. He wasn't even like whatever. He was living with someone else, and it was like their mom and this whole thing with not having beer in the house or something. So I was like carrying this beer for him, which for some reason that made me nervous. I'm like, but I don't drink beer, and I was at that point. I don't even know if I was 19. It would have been between like it was 18 or 19. And I had this beer in the bag, and they wanted to look in the bag, and I was like, crap. But I actually didn't have my like any of my tagging stuff in the bag. It was like on my person, and they asked for my ID, and I remember like I have the stuff in my sleeve as well, and I like got my wallet out and whatever, and I was like, frick, like I'm totally gonna get busted here, and just like this is no good. And they said that there was like break-ins in the area and stuff, but everything checked out, and like they didn't like search me or get me to empty my pockets. They just wanted to see my bag, and then I was like, they asked if I was drinking because I had beer. I was like, no, they're just like carrying it for later or something. I don't remember what I said. And it was fine. Like everything worked out. But again, super, super nerve-wracking. I just remember there is one other time where I'm like, again, confronted by police and didn't get arrested. And this one was like kind of nuts. So I guess as a break from all this, because around that last time would have been when I was using the name Immune, I-M-U-N-E. I didn't use it very long at all. And I don't know exactly what happened, but something kind of clicked for me where I was like, there's been this shift all this time. And again, me learning more about the subculture, the local culture of graffiti and vandalism and stuff in Saskatoon. Talking to more people, getting to know some people. There's these stories and histories and real things and legends and whatever. And Lee Jones, who was the constable, the anti-graffiti unit, as it was called, Constable Lee Jones was the only member, I believe, of that, or he headed it up anyway, which is already a problem, because anti-graffiti, it's just, again, like that rubs me the wrong way, because I do not define graffiti by its legality or illegality. Graffiti is a style of art. It's stylized letter structure. I can do it on paper or a whiteboard, or I could use spray paint on a wall. And even if I'm using spray paint on a wall, it doesn't mean it's illegal. What if I'm on a free wall, or I'm doing it on my own property, or someone's paid me to paint their business, right? That is still all graffiti, and it's still legal. So an anti-graffiti unit is like, you're just perpetuating this thing that this style of art is bad and negative and illegal, when what they really should have had is like an anti-vandalism unit. That would have made more sense. So even just the wording, because it was on like the Saskatoon Police Service website, anti-graffiti unit. Anyway, so there's just like all these different things that I'm getting to know, and learning more, meeting more people outside of like B's circle even, and just learning more about the culture. And at that point, things for me kind of became very political. In the aspect, like not big political parties, but like the politics of graffiti culture, of vandalism, of my local area of Saskatoon, the politics of how the police handle those things. So it became more political, and I was thinking like, because I had heard of like cases where this has happened, and I had seen even evidence of it where like, yeah, people got paid to do a mural, right? So they would get paid to do like this sweet mural, and they have like graffiti letters, and they have like characters, and they have like, they have the business, the name of the business is like in this graffiti style or whatever you want to call it. And I had heard a couple times, because I was like, like what happened to like Midtown Billiards or this place or that place. And it's like, oh yeah, Lee Jones talked to the owner and he got them to paint over it. And I was like, what do you mean? Like the owner contracted an individual artist, said, man, I would really like you to paint my business. Like, That would be tight, you know, like get this like awesome, these awesome colors and this style and really attract a lot more business with this style. And it's just like getting a custom sign made. You have a mural on the side of your building or something, right? Something that people would actually appreciate artistically, and it would be different, and you would look at it, and it's good for advertising that business. And apparently, things I had heard, like Lee Jones would, I should say, apparently, I would hearsay at the time, and then confirmed later by himself when I had the unfortunate circumstances of actually meeting him. So, I, you know, had heard he would talk to these business owners and be like, you know, no, you got to paint over that. And they're like, why? Or he would just like bully them into painting over it. His thing, and I had a conversation with him in person, was that legal graffiti spawns illegal graffiti. So he liked to talk about the broken window syndrome or effect, broken window effect, which is basically like, oh, if a part of town looks really crappy, let's say there's broken windows that don't get fixed, you know, there's like boarded up stuff, there's like a bunch of vandalism, maybe tagging and stuff that doesn't get cleaned up, that it starts to look really crappy and ruddy, and then other forms of crime also, they also, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Accelerate, I guess. Other forms of crime accelerate in that neighborhood, and it gets to be more serious stuff. The research behind this, I believe that that's true. That's a true thing. Legal graffiti, though, I don't think spawns illegal graffiti. It really doesn't. Like, from all my experience, people I've talked to, and again, being in that community for years in Saskatoon and whatever, no, that's not how that works. The broken window effect, I think, is legitimate. That's a concern. So whatever, work on cleaning up the neighborhoods then, not by arresting people, but by actively going into the community and what there's a whole, we can go off the rails into gentrification and a bunch of other stuff that happened down in like Riverside. But I mean, there's other things you can do to clean up a community without just like arresting people that are tagging. But that's not even relevant, because what we're talking about is him approaching businesses that have paid someone to do this for them, and it's all legal. And he's like, yeah, but that stuff will spawn illegal stuff. No, it won't. It doesn't at all. When I see that someone has gotten an opportunity for themselves to get paid for their work, that's inspiring to me. I'm like, wow, I want to do that. I want to get good. I want everyone to see my awesome stuff. You know, like, it's not just about tagging. I mean, if you are into doing more stuff than tagging, like, I love tagging. Like, it's just strip it down to the bare elements. I'm not worried about 3D. I'm not worried about one-shots and stuff. Like, just having sick hand styles, I love it. But that's not, you know, like, if someone were to give me a wall and say, you can do whatever you want, I'm not just going to tag it. I want to, like, create a piece. I want to, like, go and draw something and create, like, a background and have something, like, that's really well done. When I see people have those opportunities, it doesn't make me want to go and just tag the other side of the building. That doesn't make any sense. No, it's inspiring for me to get to a place where I can earn those opportunities for myself. So his thinking there is completely backwards. So anyway, there's this part of the politics and stuff. So graffiti and vandalism for me through those couple of years really shifted. And I started thinking about things in a different lens, and that I could use this as a way to communicate on a broader scale. So I made this decision that I wasn't going to hit private property anymore around this time. Well, I guess one step right before then, I decided I needed a new name. So I created this new name. I was like, man, I'm getting better with my style, and I want to like keep this name for a long time, and I want to be really... I had done this with Averex a little bit, but also just learning like how I can manipulate certain letters, what letters I actually like. You know, if the capital of that, or the uppercase of that letter and the lowercase are like so different that I can do cool stuff with them. Like, what letters are more versatile and still recognizable, things like that. So I took that into consideration. I was like flipping through a dictionary. I was also trying to find a word that like really represented me a little more, and kind of, if you want to say, my mission or my whatever it was that I was trying to do. So that's what I was thinking of, and so I landed on the name Oral, Oral, and I was like, part of it is just like the culture there with like a lot of First Nations and Aboriginal peoples that like oral traditions of storytelling, right? So there was this part of that for me too. Is like I want to use this as some way to communicate. There was also like puns that I had in there as well with some of the stickers that I made. And I wanted 4 letters. I didn't want more than that because then it just starts to get too jumbled and complex for me. If I had 3 letters, it could be misconstrued as a crew name. So it was like 4 letters is what I wanted, and I was like Oral. I felt like the O and the A, you've got vowels, and then the R and the L as a capital, they could also be like have tails on them, and whatever. I was just like, there was just this balance to it that I really liked. The O was kind of difficult too and challenging because I'm like, how do I make an O mine and still make it look like an O? Like it's not as versatile as a letter like an S. There's a lot more to work with, or like a K or an R. And a lowercase o and an uppercase O are the exact same thing. One's just bigger. But if you think of like a lowercase r and a capital R, like there's a big difference there. So you've got more versatility with what you can do with your name. So I was just thinking like, what do I do? Anyway, so I picked that name, and then I thought, you know what? I'm gonna like start this crew or whatever. I'm just gonna have a crew name, just because, and that's where FK came into the picture. And what I kind of talk about, if you haven't watched I think it might have been the first story time, was the origins of the name FK Arts. Well, this is some overlap there, but I mean, that goes more into depth about that a little bit. But basically, it's because I started using FK as a crew name, and for me, the acronym was Fatal Kiss, which I go into more in detail in that thing about like FK Arts, because I ended up just like transferring that name into my personal art practice at that time, which I never would have referred to it as back then. But I think I'm realizing right now I'm going to have to split this up into 2 parts, because it's been 20 minutes right now, and I still have some stuff to tell here, and I don't want to make this conversation like too long. So where are we at? I picked the name Oral. That seemed to really represent things I like. It was playful. It had some other connotations to it that were like political. I liked the balance of the letters, what I could do with them, with style, with hand styles, and with other stuff. And it was a little challenging, and it just like, it had some meanings for me. Like I said, there's kind of puns there, multiple meanings. And then also couple that with the name the crew name FK and Fatal Kiss, mouth, oral. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So that was the name that I picked. It was the last name that I've ever used for illegal graffiti purposes. It was a name that I've stuck with for the longest, and also did most of my work with at that time. I think that is a good place to stop right now, and we'll call this part 1, and then we will see you for part 2, which I will upload in a couple days, I guess.